Hi, I'm Catherine, and for me, success was the only option. Looking back on it, it's hardly surprising because I come from a long line of hard workers, go-getters, and overachievers. So I suppose it was bred into me. I could see no value in failure. I always gave 100%, no matter what the cost, and I simply had to succeed. And it isn't just my upbringing or my genes. It isn't just me. Everyone's getting in on the act. Society is polarizing success and failure as opposites, good and bad, black and white. We're supposed to wear our successes like a badge of honor, and we're kind of supposed to hide away our failures or sometimes even pretend they don't exist, like, sure, I didn't really want it anyway, or the ref made a bad call, or I wasn't even trying. Because it seems failure is no longer an acceptable part of being human. We weren't always like that. Remember when we'd climb a tree and we didn't know if we'd get to the top? Or when we got 70% in an exam, we'd think we were brilliant. Like, we never expected ourselves to be perfect or to get things right the first time. But somewhere along the way, we learned about being the best and that it wasn't okay to make mistakes. So we grew afraid of failing, and that fear's just got bigger. Failure is getting more and more taboo, and our version of success is so close to perfect, sure nobody could do it. So we don't even try the things we might fail at, and we risk getting trapped inside our comfort zone. Sure, we're going to save ourselves the roller coaster that goes along with shooting for the stars, but we're living a life that's just a little bit smaller. Or when we do try, we put ourselves under savage pressure to achieve. We starve ourselves just to reach a number on the scales, or we run injured rather than drop out of a race. Or in my case, I sat exams 2 weeks after an emergency C-section, and while my twins were in the neonatal ward. Thankfully, I found a better way of looking at success and failure. And I found it while I was looking for something else altogether. There I was, juggling work, sport, and life with 1-year-old twins. But I was looking for more. It wasn't just my thirst for success this time. It was adjusting to life as a parent and finally facing up to the fact that actually I was an adult. But I was looking for something that might change me. I was looking for an Everest. And then I read that less people had swum the English Channel than had climbed Everest. And I was intrigued. Between the tides and the distance, these legends would swim 26 miles wearing only swimming togs, goggles, and a hat. I was hooked. Now, the longest I'd ever swum was about a mile in the pool. I hate the cold, and I suffer from terrible motion sickness. But I knew that if I wanted to change myself, I'd have to pick a goal that I wasn't sure I could achieve. And the idea of swimming from one country to another, it made my soul sing. The decision was made, I would swim the English Channel. Like a typical nerd, I read everything I could find out about it, and I talked to other swimmers. There would be no quick fix. It was going to be tough. Between work, my boys, and my total lack of swimming experience, I reckoned it would take me about 3 years to get ready, and I wanted to give it my best shot. If this was the movies, right, there'd be a training montage, and you'd see me lifting weights or crying from exhaustion at the side of the pool, or rattling with the cold the first time I swam an hour in the sea without a wetsuit. I trained really hard, like marathon, half Ironman, English Channel relay hard, and I swam all the time. I swam before work, after work, and on occasion I even swam through the night. I swam against the tide and with the jellyfish. And when I really, really, really wanted to quit, I kept swimming. Let me tell you about a typical session. So it was a freezing cold January morning, and my dad drove me to the beach. I needed there to be somebody with me in case I got hypothermia. So I stripped down to my togs really quickly before I changed my mind, and I wade out past the seaweed until I'm deep enough to start swimming. The cold gets into my sinuses like nothing I've ever experienced. It's like an ice cream headache that just won't stop. But I keep swimming. I settle myself in and I sing songs to pass the time. About halfway through, I remember about the hypothermia, and I convince myself that my lips and my toes are numb. But at this stage of the training, I realize that I can't always trust my mind. So I switch tactics, and I count my strokes, willing the repetition to calm me. And it works for a while, but when my hips start to cramp up from the cold, I know it's actually my body. So I turn around and I swim hard until I'm back to shore. And I get dressed before my hands are too numb. Dad drives me home while my teeth chatter and my body shivers to warm itself up. And then I can start my normal life. So I get the boys ready for play school and I drive to work. You might think I was cursing myself for picking such a stupidly hard goal or questioning my own sanity. But I wasn't. I was concentrating on eating my sandwiches, my third meal of that morning, because I'd changed. I had an open water swimming body now, and it demanded more. More shoulder muscles, more fat, and definitely more food. My hair was puffed up like candy floss, and my eyes were like a panda from the goggles. None of my clothes fit me. My tongue would swell up from the salt water. And more often than not, I was puffy and blue. But that wasn't the point. My body was a machine that worked for me. A machine I was proud of. I had changed. I saw what my body could do, what all our bodies can do, and it's incredible. The 3 years of training passed slowly, and to be honest, they almost broke me. But eventually, the day of my swim arrived. All that stood between me and success was 26 miles of swimming. My team were on the boat, ready to guide me to France. And I stood on Shakespeare's beach in Dover, and I imagined that all my family and friends were there with me. I could almost hear them roaring me on. It all came down to this. I took a deep breath and stepped forward. The clock started and my crossing began. I was only delighted with myself. I was doing it. I was actually doing it. Every step, every stroke took me deeper out to sea and further away from the safety of shore. I knew that the cliffs of Dover would be the most beautiful sight, but today wasn't a day for looking back. After about 2 hours, I started to feel seasick, but I kept swimming. This was the English Channel after all. After about 5 hours, no matter what food my team gave me, I couldn't keep anything down. And I was using so much energy just to move and keep my body warm. It was exhausting. The seasickness turned to dry retching, and by 10 hours, I was completely empty. It got dark, and I felt something brush against my leg. I remembered just how deep the ocean actually was, and I got really frightened. But I kept swimming. The closer I got to my limits, the slower I became. But a calm came over me. It was like those demons that had goaded me to tears my entire life about quitting and failing and not being good enough. They were silenced. All I could think of was how lucky I was and how far I'd come. I was no longer obsessed by success, so failure no longer had any power over me. Somewhere between 12 and 14 hours, I passed my limits. Past anything I ever thought my mind or body could endure. But I kept swimming. My arms were barely clearing the water, and I was dangerously close to passing out. To this day, my husband, Dean, and I, we don't remember if either of us actually said anything, but we knew. I'd had enough. At 14 hours and 45 minutes, and only 3 miles from France, we called it. I got out. I had failed. Sitting on the boat back to England, every bit of my body was screaming. I was in such pain and I just couldn't stop getting sick. I was so sorry for myself and absolutely mortified. How could I have spent 3 years battling so hard for this and then fail? Was I a loser? Every fiber of my being screamed no. Those thoughts were merely an echo of somebody that I used to be because I was full of other emotions. I was proud, happy, grateful, relieved. With those emotions and the pain coursing through my body, I have never felt so alive. I finally realized that failure wasn't the opposite of success. It was much more complicated than this. But I never imagined it would feel so good. Do I wish I'd reached France? Of course. But looking back on it now, I wouldn't change a thing. I wanted a goal that might change me. And I like who I've become. My boys will grow up knowing that a mom is someone who works and trains and fails and keeps going anyway. My boys will grow up knowing that success isn't the only option. It turns out not swimming the English Channel has made me a better everything. It turns out that failure is a brilliant teacher, and it's taught me that the only thing worth fearing is failing to begin. Never risking anything, never trying, never growing, letting anything or anyone stop us from being the best that we can be. Not perfect or even successful, but our best, because that's more than enough. So let's ditch this idea of perfect. Let's do away with the idea that failure is the opposite of success and seek out those brilliant goals that make our souls sing, the ones that terrify us, that we just can't rationalize to anybody else. And we'll give it our best shot. We won't leave any bit of ourselves back, and we'll leave the safety of shore vulnerable, exposed, uncertain. Because it really is okay to fail. It's not success that matters. It's the daring to begin that gives us courage and hope. Hope that life can be different, that we can be different, that we can push past our limits and achieve more than we ever dreamt possible. And when we do that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm certain we're in for an incredible, life-changing adventure. Thank you.